Okay, welcome to the deep dive. We're really digging into a bunch of reports today.
That's right, focusing on these high-level talks between the U.S. and Israel.
Yeah, and it's all happening with this really tense situation, this escalating conflict between Israel and Iran sort of looming over everything.
Exactly. So what we've done is pull together insights from, recent news reports. They're citing officials from both the U.S. and Israel.
And we're also looking at public statements made by leaders, too.
Right. The idea today is basically to try and sift through all of this, find the really surprising bits, the important details hidden in these sources.
We want to help you make sense of what sounds like some incredibly complex stuff reportedly going on behind the scenes.
And maybe the best place to start is, well, what the sources are calling the most striking thing, this alleged proposal from Israel.
Yeah, directly to the U.S. president, apparently, about a very, very specific target. What was that, according to the reports?
So CBS News, citing three American officials, they reported an allegation that Israel proposed assassinating Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
Wow. Okay, that's quite the claim coming from those sources.
It really is. And just as interesting, sticking with those same sources, is the reaction they reported.
Right. What they claim happened.
These officials reportedly claimed that then President Trump actually rejected it, said it was, quote, not a good idea.
And this was after Israel had already started its recent strikes on Iran.
That's what the sources allege, yeah. It's also worth pointing out, based on the reports, that Trump hasn't publicly addressed that specific allegation about the proposal.
Okay. So then let's bring in another source. When Prime Minister Netanyahu was reportedly asked about this specific plan, this was in a Fox News interview, I think. How did he respond? What did the report say?
Well, the report suggests he didn't really give a straight yes or no. He's quoted saying something like, there are so many false reports of conversations that never happened. And he reportedly added, we will do what we need to do, and I think the United States knows what is good for itself. So, denying false reports in general.
But not specifically confirming or denying that particular claim.
Exactly. Which, just looking purely at these sources, it does raise questions about maybe strategic messaging or just different accounts floating around.
Yeah, because you have that report about targeting the supreme leader, a very political figure. But then what did another source, a senior Israeli official talking to CBS News, reportedly say about Israel's general targeting strategy?
Right. So according to the sources, this senior official reportedly pushed back on targeting political figures generally.
Okay.
Said Israel tends to avoid that.
Mhm.
Instead, this official stated the focus is on nuclear and military infrastructure.
Infrastructure, right.
And this official apparently added, quote, I don't think anyone responsible for those programs should feel safe.
So the sources give us this contrast, a specific report mentioning a top political leader as a target versus a senior official saying, no, the focus is infrastructure.
Yeah, and all this is playing out while, according to reports, Israel has launched strikes, apparently since last Friday, hitting Iranian nuclear sites and other targets.
Okay, so connecting this back to the U.S. side for a second,
Mm-hmm.
what else were U.S. officials or the president reportedly saying or doing during this period based on the source material?
Well, the reports mentioned Trump posting on Truth Social, sort of urging Iran and Israel to make a deal.
Make a deal, okay.
And before the G7 summit, sources say he reaffirmed U.S. support for Israel. But apparently, he wouldn't say if he'd asked them to stop the strikes.
But he did deny U.S. involvement in the attacks themselves.
Yes, reportedly denied any U.S. role. But, and this is straight from the sources, he also issued a pretty stark warning to Tehran.
What was that?
Something to the effect of, if we are attacked in any way by Iran, the full strength and might of the U.S. armed forces will come down on you at levels never seen before. Pretty strong words there.
Definitely. And amidst all this reported back and forth and military action, what happened with diplomatic efforts, those planned talks?
Yeah, those were reportedly canceled. U.S.-Iran nuclear talks, they were meant to happen on Sunday, sources say.
Canceled by whom?
Well, Oman's foreign minister, who was mediating, reportedly confirmed the cancellation. And Reuters had a report saying Iran told Qatar and Oman it wasn't up for negotiating a ceasefire, while, in their reported view, they were under attack from Israel.
Okay, wow. So let's try and wrap this up quickly. Looking back at everything we've pulled just from
Right.
these specific sources,
Right.
you've got this reported allegation of a really high-profile assassination proposal, Khamenei, then the alleged rejection by the U.S. president.
Yep. And then the different reported responses from Israeli leadership, Netanyahu's general denial of false reports, the senior official saying the focus is infrastructure.
All happening while strikes are reportedly ongoing, talks get canceled.
And you have the U.S. president publicly backing Israel, but also warning Iran and calling for a deal. It's a lot of moving parts.
It really is. And for you listening, kind of untangling these threads, even when the accounts within the sources seem to differ or conflict slightly, it does give you a sense, doesn't it, of the incredible pressure and the really sensitive calls reportedly being made at the absolute highest levels during a crisis like this?
Absolutely. It's a glimpse into that decision-making process, or at least the reported aspects of it.
So maybe a final thought, just based purely on these reports we've discussed. You have the alleged assassination proposal on one hand,
Right.
and the Israeli official's statement about infrastructure focus on the other,
Right.
plus all the public comments and the reported private ones. What does all that make you think about how intentions, how strategy, how information itself gets communicated, or maybe miscommunicated at that top level? Something we consider.